Hello and welcome everybody to Gustavo's Book Club. As usual, I am thrilled to see everybody here logging in. And you all know, if you're here, you know that we are reading The Secrets to Ultimate Weight Loss by our wonderful friend and mentor, Chef AJ. So just a few announcements. Remember that in my YouTube channel, which is under my name, Gustavo Tolosa, you have so many cooking demos that are free. They are in the playlist Whole Food Plant Based, if you want to look for them there. I think that's something that's fun to watch. Though also I have others that are in my website, plantemas.com. And just so that you know, I have some exciting news. I have an upcoming webinar with Dr. McDougall. I will announce it when, and it's going to have a very interesting topic. And I will also be doing a cook along. Many of you are familiar with that. That's when I send you a ingredient list ahead of time so you can go shopping. And but it's a surprise. You know, you have the ingredients, but you don't know what I'm going to make. And then we get it. At the specified day and time, we all log in and we cook together. So that's coming up. And today we are starting on page 29 because I would like to highlight a very important, not concept, but very important information that Chef AJ gives us here on page 29, the last paragraph. I almost have to read it word by word because it is so important what she's saying that just bear with me. This is something that I think once we all understand it clearly, things start to fall together, to fall into place. So it says, when the calories in the food that you eat come from fat, they are easily and effortlessly stored as fat. We think sometimes that all calories are the same, but all calories are not the same. Calories from fat go immediately into storage because our bodies are designed for survival, and calories from carbohydrates and basically are burned pretty much immediately because that's the preferred fuel of the body. So then it says where the calories from carbohydrates and protein, even if you overeat them, are either burned as heat or stored invisibly in the muscles or liver as glycogen. At 9 calories per gram, all fat, regardless of its source, is more than twice as calorically dense as either carbohydrates or protein, each containing only 4 calories per gram. While dietary fat is easily and effortlessly converted to body fat, it takes less than 3% of the calories in the food to go from the lips to the hips, like she said. Human beings cannot readily convert an excess of protein or carbohydrate to fat. This is a process that is called de novo lipogenesis, and it costs too much energy for the body to convert carbohydrates or protein to fat. And that is very erroneous concept that you hear people say that carbohydrates become fat. Not unless you are in extreme circumstances where you haven't eaten in weeks and you're starving, then the body will do that so that you don't die. But that is rare, at least in our current times. So very important to understand that. And I'm turning the page to page 30. And then it says that we're moving along in our chart here. We're discussing calorie density, which is the most important concept to understand when we're trying to either keep our weight or lose weight. And the concept is that if we choose the right foods, foods with a very, very low caloric content, we don't have to limit them. So we can eat as much as we want, as many times as we want, and never be hungry, which is a total opposite of the mentality of the person that goes from one diet to another, and we all know what that's like. So on page 30, we're going to now move on here to the chart. And last week we left it off at avocados, which, if you notice, is not green. Green is go, eat as much of this food as you want. It's not red, which means don't eat them. It's purple because these are things that fruits or vegetables, mostly vegetables, that are not unhealthy. It's just that they have a lot of calories, and that most of those calories come from fat. So you just have to be careful, unless you don't struggle with weight or with, food. How should I say? That you really are constantly craving that food. So let's move on here to the group that has between 1,200 and 800 calories per pound, and those are refined complex carbohydrates. And the key word here is refined. Let's move on to the next slide. Okay, and I like this picture. It says weapon of mass destruction. And these are things like bread, flour, of course, and sugar, and processed dairy products like cheese and ice cream. These are not whole foods and are not especially, beneficial to your health. These are calorie dense manufactured foods, none of which are found in nature. So if you really think about it, we don't have a plant or a tree that gives us cheese, or where you see bread hanging from the branches, or ice cream, or sugar. We have sugar cane, but we don't have the processed sugar. And it is within this category that most people's cravings and food addiction occurs. And so now I already mentioned this in our first meeting, but the one there to the top and to the right would be my struggle. I don't struggle with cheese. I don't really struggle with ice cream. Sugar, I many times, I have been able to totally just leave it, because we have fruit and we have things like maybe eating a date or a raisin or something. So salt and flour are difficult sometimes, but it depends on each person. The average American eats over 150 pounds of sugar per person per year, which is almost half a pound of sugar per person each day. If you can imagine that, half a pound of sugar per day. When you process a whole plant food like beets into sugar, or brown rice into brown rice flour, you exponentially increase its caloric density and thus your ability to overeat it. It becomes calorie rich and nutrient poor. I like that. These foods that are processed, don't come directly from nature, are calorie rich, calorie rich and nutrient poor. At the bottom of page 30, it says, you see, the less a food is processed, the better it is for your weight. The more a food is processed, the more it contributes to weight gain. So I'm going to pause here for a second, just so that if anybody wants to ask a question, you can type it right now. I may be able to answer. And if not, I will get you the answer. What about whole grain bread? Someone asked. Well, I was lucky and enough to be one of the few people who could enter Dr. McDougall's house, and because I filmed two videos there with him. You can find those 2 videos in my YouTube channel, and it was so wonderful to be there. And Mary and McDougall are such wonderful and kind people, and they do eat some bread, and well, at least at the time, it's been probably for 3 years that I've done this interview, but I know that there is bread. They may not have an addiction like many of you may have, and but in the starch solution, and I will see if I can get this one here. In the starch solution, bread is allowed as long as you can find perhaps a bakery in town that produces its own bread. It's not industrial massive production, and you can ask questions, and you can find a bread that is real whole wheat with no oil and no dairy, of course, and no butter or anything like that, or salt. I actually have a place in my town where they make bread that is whole wheat. It doesn't have salt. It's basically the whole wheat and water and some yeast, although they use the organic yeast. And so there are also different kinds of breads, like I just had it in my mind, Ezekiel. But this is the gray area, not in Chef AJ's book. That's not a gray area. That's a no. So someone that is coming out of a horrible way of eating, let's say a really bad standard American diet, and wants to still have the possibility of having some bread and having some pasta and then gradually eliminate it like I did, then this is a welcome addition. So there is no simple answer to this. It depends where you are in your journey. It depends how many more pounds you need to lose or want to lose. It depends if you really have an addiction. If you want to discuss that more, just send me an email and we can chat. Very good. So let's move on in our book here, and let's go to our next slide. So here you have the specific list of the calories in each group, and you can see that they are very, very high. So in addition to being more calorically dense, and I am at top of page 31, the foods to the right of the red line, with the exception of the few high-fat plant foods have virtually no fiber or water, which have been removed in the processing along with all the vitamins, minerals, phytochemicals, and antioxidants. These are the vital components of food that you need to prevent and reverse disease, and that most Americans are sorely deficient in. When you refine a whole plant food to make sugar, flour, bread, or pasta, the plant's nutrients are destroyed and the fiber is either damaged or removed. This is also important because when you grind a whole grain to make flour, you now increase its surface area, which increases its absorption in your intestines, which increases your blood sugar more quickly, which in turn increases insulin. And we know that insulin is responsible for driving fat into the cells. This is another of the many reasons to eat your food whole in general and your whole grains whole in particular. Always eating your food whole rather than processed is another secret to ultimate weight loss. So Chef AJ is releasing a few secrets at a time. Of course, the biggest one is the concept of caloric density. Another secret really is to eat your food whole, like we showed last week. Instead of eating just like a cup of apple sauce, eat the apple whole. And I don't know about you. I mean, there are always exceptions. We're not going to talk about the very, very few exceptions maybe out there. We're going to talk about the general population. I can eat one, maybe two large apples, and I don't think I can eat a third, and much less a fourth or a fifth or a sixth. But it is easy to basically eat 6 apples if you drink the juice, which is mostly sugar because there is no more fiber there. All right. Oranges, yes, these are very low calorically dense, very, very low calorie foods. So it's fine. All these foods are to the left of the red line, which means eat ad libitum, eat as many and as much as you want. I intentionally did not include animal products in my calorie density chart, Chef AJ says on page 31, and that's the third paragraph. The majority of them average about 1,000 calories per pound or more, and so are found to the right of the red line. No animal products contain any fiber. You might be surprised to know that a lot of people think that animal products have fiber, and they don't have an ounce of fiber. And they are generally very high in fat and high in cholesterol. So I am writing down these questions that you are typing here, and I will answer them next time. There's a question here of how to reduce potassium in your diet. Of course, here there is information missing. I mean, first of all, I'm not a medical doctor, but I could ask a medical doctor. But I would like for this person, the age, the reason why the doctor wants to reduce the potassium, if there are any illnesses associated with this person. I mean, what kind of diet the person eats on a regular basis. So if you don't mind sending me an email with more details, I can find out. So there is someone who is asking a very important question. Hold on just a minute. We'll get to that question about losing weight by eliminating nut butters and legumes. Legumes, no, don't eliminate them. but Chef AJ actually answers that question and it's coming up here in a minute. At the bottom of page 32, there is a very interesting experiment that is also described in the previous book that we read, Dr. Neil Barnard's book on reversing diabetes. And in this book, in this experiment was conducted with people who were self-professed chocoholics, people that really were had an addiction to chocolate. They gave the subjects an injection of a drug called naloxone. It's an opiate blocker that is used in the emergency room to treat heroin overdoses. After the administration of this potent drug, which really is not available to us, so don't think that you're gonna go and be able to get these injections, but this is for purposes of this research. These subjects, when they were given this drug, had virtually no interest in eating the chocolate that they so loved and adored. So I ask you this, did the chocolate cease to become, luscious and creamy and delicious? Or could it have been that the effect that the chocolate had on their brains was now obliterated? Because the effect that the chocolate has in the brain, which is very much like a drug, is what the drug was blocking. So that chocolate did not smell or taste good to them. They did not want to have it. Very interesting experiment. So now we keep going in our chart here. But before that, just look at this wonderful visual aids where we have in one jar, these jars represent your stomach, and we have 1, 2, 3, 4, we have 6 potatoes. Now, again, maybe there are some people who can sit down and at one sitting can eat 6 potatoes. I think that most of us can't. But I think that most of us could, in one sitting, eat those cubes of cheese very easily. Now, which one is going to fill you up more? Well, the 6 potatoes are going to leave you, if you can eat them all, totally full, perhaps for hours and hours and hours, while the cheese is going to fill up a very small portion of your stomach, not to mention that the fat and the hormones and all the cholesterol, everything else in the cheese would basically go from your lips, like Chef AJ says, to the hips, because fat is easily and almost immediately stored as fat, as with the potatoes is burned in energy or heat. So that's very good. Here is the same 6 potatoes, and I am not sure, I cannot remember what that was, but it's I don't know if that was grape juice, some kind of juice. Again, you can drink that in just one gulp there and get the same amount of calories, and it's mostly plain sugar. Look at the flour there, very little. So there you go. Can it be any clearer with that picture there? Don't even think about it. So now we are going to chocolate, which is there. We just discussed it. It's one of the most one of the foods that is most addictive. Look at that. Look at how little those M&Ms will fill you up. Basically, it won't fill you up. And now we get to nut seeds, nut butters, tahini. And this is where I know that Chef AJ had been fighting for quite a long time nuts, seeds, the luscious nut and seed butters like peanut butter and tahini, which are made from them. You have an average of 2,800 calories per pound. Now, this is page 33, and this is the third paragraph. And Chef AJ says, I have been accused of saying that nuts are not healthy and telling people not to eat them. This is simply not true. Nuts are a whole food fat and have some health benefits, but with a mere 1 ounce of walnuts containing roughly 200 calories and 20 grams of fat, they are more likely to fill you out than fill you up. Learning not to indulge in them was crucial to my own weight loss, and when I finally stopped eating them entirely for the first time in my life, I was able to get slim with little effort. She says that at one point, she was measuring 1 ounce of nuts per day, and she just simply could not. She had reached this plateau and could not lose any more weight. There are individual genetic differences in how much fat certain people can consume without getting fat, which we have to consider that. There are some naturally thin people who can eat a lot of nuts and avocado and not gain weight. But if you're overweight, then that's probably not you. I have to tell you that the salt-free bagel seasoning, it's miraculous. It's so wonderful on whole potatoes. You can bake them and slice them like kind of like a bagel, maybe even making a hole in the middle to make them look like a bagel, and then you put that everything bagel seasoning, and it's almost like eating a bagel. So that's something that I now keep in my kitchen, the everything bagel seasoning. So on page 34, let's see if we have here. On page 34, we have in this second paragraph, Chef AJ says, many experts advise us to eat nuts every day. As far as I can tell, none of them have ever been overweight or struggled with food addiction or emotional eating. In my case, for example, not at all drawn to eating the nuts, butters, and the nuts or seeds. It's just something that I really don't care for. So I don't struggle with that. But like I said earlier, my struggle is more with the flours, basically flours like bread. While I certainly don't think that nuts are addictive in the same way that sugar and flour are, many people, even slender ones, seem to have a problem moderating their use. And she mentions Dr. Alan Goldhammer, the founder of True North, who is one of the people that has the most control on the planet. And even him, he says that he puts in the freezer little bags of 1 ounce of cashews, I think. Let's see. Cashews, yes. That's his favorite. And they're in the freezer so that he will eat them every now and then, and not overeat them. If you're concerned that you will become fatty acid deficient by following my advice to shun high-fat foods, then add 1 tablespoon of ground flax seeds, chia seeds, or hemp seeds to your daily salad. And finally, we complete our chart here with, and again, before we move on, just so that you can see the concept in pictures of calorie density, how you can consume so easily so many calories for just a few walnuts there to the right. And and you can consume so few calories with the potatoes, and and actually those calories get burned easily. Let's see. There's peanut butter, almost nothing that you can have compared to the potatoes. And look, all you can eat for the same amount of calories. You could eat 4 artichokes and a big sweet potatoes, and that's the tiniest slice of pecan pie. Which one are you going to choose to feel full and satisfied, and which one is going to help you lose weight? And there's the difference of Chef AJ, who had already lost quite a lot of pounds in the left, but she was still eating nuts, and in the right, when she stopped eating nuts and started eating even more potatoes. Cute picture. And finally, we get to all oils, which it doesn't matter if they're healthy oils, which really doesn't exist. But all oils have an average of 4,000 or more calories per pound. It is the most calorically dense and nutritionally poor food on the planet, and that is oil. And even though some people call it a health food, that's just not correct. Did you know that it takes almost 16 years of corn to make just 1 tablespoon of corn oil? Do you think anyone could honestly eat 16 ears of corn in one sitting? But it is very easy to down a salad with 40 calories from lettuce and at least 400 calories from an oil dressing. And I have seen that, where people make a beautiful salad that was probably 150 or 200 calories, and then they just put so much oil that salad immediately became, I don't know, 1,500 calories. It takes about 40 olives. Can you imagine? Just picture 40 olives to make only 1 tablespoon of olive oil. When you process the olives into oil, everything that was beneficial in the whole natural food, like water, fiber, vitamins, minerals, phytochemicals, and antioxidants, are destroyed in the processing, and you're left with a non-nutritive, disease-promoting toxin that will make you fat and sick. So eat the olives, not the olive oil. Eat the whole flax seeds, not the flaxseed oil. Eat the coconut, not the coconut oil. But remember that even in their whole food form, these are still very calorically dense, high-fat foods. So on page 35, on the second paragraph in the middle, it says, by implementing those simple measures alone, many will lose up to 10 pounds the first month. Giving up processed oils permanently is one of the best things you can do for your health and your waistline. All oils bypass the normal mechanisms of satiation. Because oil has no nutrients, it never activates the nutrient receptors. And because it also has no fiber, it can never activate the stretch receptor, so you never feel satiated. And basically, there is nothing remarkably and health promoting happens in the transformation of a whole food into a processed food. It only serves to make the food more calorically rich and nutrient poor. Now, on page 36, the last paragraph, it says that she says, I hope you understand that you're better off eating an ear of corn than 1/16 of a tablespoon of corn oil that is made from it. Can you imagine 1/16 of a tablespoon? It's basically a drop. But what about some relatively healthy foods that can be made from corn, like corn tortillas, oil-free baked corn chips, or air-popped popcorn? And this is a question that comes up often. Let's look in here. Just want to show you the pictures that she has in the presentation here. Look at the tiny amount of olive oil that would equal the amount of calories. But remember that it's just, even though it's a huge difference, it's not only the amount of calories, it's the type. 400 calories of oil basically leave your stomach empty. 400 calories of chicken, not even half of your stomach gets full, but 400 calories of vegetable fills up your stomach. And here is Dr. McDougall's famous saying, the fat you eat is the fat you wear. And we have some very interesting pictures that will compare the caloric content of foods. And again, will you eat just one? Do you prefer to eat one chip that basically will do absolutely nothing for your satisfaction? Or look at that. Look at how many baby carrots you can eat. Look at that tiny cracker with a little bit of a dressing. Equals the same amount of calories as this all these vegetables. And I'm just going to go through this, either all those wonderful cherry tomatoes or a teaspoon of ranch dressing, one chocolate chip, only one, or look at 1 pound of grapes. These pictures are great. The tiniest slice of pizza in the world, or a huge bowl of chili. The tiniest sundae in the world, or a bowl of fresh fruit sorbet with fresh fruit. Look what that tiny piece of cheese does to the salad. You can eat only that amount, which is almost nothing, or you can eat the whole salad to the left. You can eat one donut, or like 50 or so oranges. And again, and it keeps going. I'm going to show you the concept of calorie density. And since we have popcorn here, and people ask about popcorn all the time, let's see if what Chef AJ says on page 36. Whole corn, like any other whole grain, is just 500 calories per pound. So just imagine 1 pound of corn. Unprocessed, just corn, is 500 calories. But corn tortillas, or even oil-free baked corn tortillas, contain about 990 calories per pound, just about double. And it's because it's been processed and the water has been removed. And air-popped popcorn, we're talking about air-popped, not, this doesn't have oil, is 1,800 calories per pound, 1,800 calories per pound. So when you stop and think about this, that 1 pound of delicious corn is 500 pounds, but 500 calories, but 1 pound of popcorn is 1,800 calories, more than triple the amount. Keep reminding yourself that while these more processed versions of the whole foods are certainly not unhealthy, and you may be able to enjoy them occasionally once you become svelte, they are less favorable for weight loss because they have had their water removed. Remember, the more you process a food and move away from eating it in its whole natural state, the less effective it's going to be for weight loss. And then we have this type of food, which is called hand-to-mouth foods, are never favorable for weight loss or for those suffering from food addiction, because it's just this kind of mindless, hypnotic way of eating, that just hand-to-mouth eating and without thinking. So sequencing your food intake by consuming lower calorie density foods prior to higher calorie density foods is another secret to ultimate weight loss. So here we have yet another secret. Look at all those. You can eat 2 big baked potatoes, which again, most people can't. But let's say that you can. You will be very full after eating those 2 big baked potatoes, or you could eat for the same amount of calories 2 French fries. Not 2 potatoes that have been fried, but just 2 fries. 2. All right, so here is the summary. We are on page 38, and at the very top it says, one of the principles I teach in the Ultimate Weight Loss Program is, if you are not hungry enough to eat vegetables, then you're not hungry. That's why I always recommend taking advantage of their low caloric density and eating them first if you can, if you want to lose weight. I agree with people, some of you that are saying here that sequencing is important, because I remember in Dr. McDougall's program when they were in person, and also in True North, that the table is set up in a special way, going from the least processed, least calorically dense foods to the higher. And if you can eat first your salad, your raw salad, or your soups that will really fill you up, will give you the volume. By the time you get to the potatoes or to the beans and other things that are a little higher in calories, you will already be full and you will consume less. So I think it's important. And also the concept of veggies for breakfast, which I have tried and I like it a lot. If you can start your day with either steamed vegetables or roasted vegetables, or just raw vegetables, it will really, besides giving you a feeling that you have already started your day good and you don't want to ruin it, it really is, it fills you up with all the fiber and water, and then you will probably eat less oatmeal. Not that oatmeal is bad, but it just has more calories. So that's what AJ says, that helps her keep her weight down and helped her to lose all the weight that she wanted to lose. So one of my favorite meals is chili. And on page, let's see, on page 158 in the book, we have the black bean mushroom chili. And I even can eat that for breakfast. There are very few things that don't sound good for breakfast, but most of the things that I eat for lunch or dinner, I don't mind eating them for breakfast. Okay, so let's see how easy this is to make. It's one of the easiest things to make and one of the most delicious recipes for chili that I have tried. Before we go into that, I want to mention that in my YouTube channel today, I uploaded a very interesting video of that doesn't have to do particularly with food, but it has to do with health. And it is about this young child, 11 years old, who is learning how to manage autism with music. And he has started taking music lessons through the nonprofit organization that I started about 8 years ago that is called Musical Angels. And it's only about 12 minutes long, but You might want to go and look at and watch it because it's very moving and very interesting. And today I gave him a lesson, and I'm going to upload another video in the next few days. All right, so let's see here this wonderful chili that I hope that you will make. Well, thanks everybody for joining me today. As usually, it's a pleasure. I will see you all next week. We will quickly finish chapter 2. Go ahead and go on to chapter 3. Please, if you had questions today, send me an email, although I have them here, and I will find you good answers to your questions, and I will see you next week. Thank you very much for joining me. Bye-bye.